Isaac Guerrero steam to share for the Fantasy Feast Covenant?
I do. He's a really interesting guy, Paul. So Guerrero is the fourth man up in the running back depth chart for the 49ers.
Yep.
They lost Elijah Mitchell in the preseason. They lost Christian McCaffrey twice, and Jordan Mason went out for the went on IR. Guerrero's really interesting. He's probably the fastest running back in the NFL. His 40 time at the combine, Paul, a 4.33.
Wow.
He's a running back.
And I forgot to look at the game calling depth chart from the Niners game earlier this season, but he was on it, and I had a good nugget on him, like how he catches it. His receiving in college, was it Boise?
He was a converted receiver who switched over to running back. He can catch. Caught 22 passes his last year in college.
Yeah.
And
where'd he go? Boise State?
I don't recall.
Yeah,
I don't remember off the top of my head. But he can catch. He's not Christian McCaffrey, obviously, but they'll throw to him more. Mason could not catch at all. So this does help open up the offense a little bit that way. And they're playing Chicago this weekend, Paul. As you know,
Wisconsin and then Louisville.
Yeah, it was Wisconsin. That's exactly right. That's exactly
Louisville,
right.
Wisconsin.
Yep. Chicago this week. The way you beat Chicago, you don't throw at Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. Those are great cornerbacks. The way you beat Chicago, you run at Chicago. Last week, the Lions running backs put up 228 combo yards on the Chicago Bears. The week before that, Aaron Jones, the best game he's had in the second half of the season against the Bears. Yeah. It's just, this is how you attack the Bears on the ground. Yeah. I think Guerrero's sitting on a good game. I believe I've got him as running back 11 this week.
You see, I'm not, and we've discussed this before, I'm just not tripping as much on Jalen Johnson as you or some others. And it's like every time I watch him, it's okay, he doesn't get as much action as the other corners. And that's because he's good. I get that. But then, like, I see him in certain situations in the Vikings game where, I mean, he had a rough game that day. You know, whether it's holding against Justin Jefferson, like a 41-yard penalty. O'Connell put him in an incredibly compromising position by the goal line where he had a quick-fire decision to make. Do I retreat to Jefferson back left of the end zone, or do I look at, who is this, 83? I don't even know who this is. And he just took a step and a half the wrong way, and Darnold hit Naylor for his 5th touchdown. So it's on the point being here, it's not a tip for tat, you or I, about Jalen Johnson. I don't think he's one of those guys where if you like a guy and you get steam, stories or whatever, you think Johnson is going to be responsible for him. If I like a guy, I ain't staying away from Jalen Johnson.
I'll tell you this, my friends in Chicago would tell you Matt Eberflus has deployed him very poorly and rarely lets him play man, and he is a really good man coverage corner.
Okay.
And Eberflus just so believed in his zone schemes that he wouldn't like when
makes sense.
You're playing. Here's Jalen Johnson
because they rush 4, drop 7, a ton. But their trick is, and O'Connell talked about it after the Bears game, is they go to jumping around on the line right before the snap. So in other words, I got Montez Sweat here, I got my man here, and then ready. Well, then they like jump to spots and they try to catch you off guard.
And I think they've misdeployed Jalen Johnson some. And now that Eberflus is gone, we'll see if that changes, Paul. And it might end up changing. Speaking of Bears coaches, this Thomas Brown guy, he's in the mix to stay on as head coach. What he's done, he has been the dramatic turnaround
as head coach,
not
for just
next
OC.
Year. As for next year,
because he had one game, right? Or he hasn't had a game yet.
He's had 3.
No, he's been the offensive coordinator. Eberflus got fired after the Lions game on Thanksgiving.
Right.
So Brown's
has been the offensive coordinator as the offensive coordinator for 3 games.
Yeah.
He has,
but he's the interim head coach.
Yeah, right. These 3 games, Caleb Williams has been so much better. Yeah. The poise, the lack of mistakes. That Thomas Brown has now entered conversation for head coach going forward.
Wow.
Everybody's looking at Ben Johnson and others, right? Yeah. Aaron Glenn. But Thomas Brown's working himself into this conversation, and if he continues to mature Caleb Williams, why would you break that up?
I mean, if Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, who has turned down head coaching jobs 2 straight years.
Yes.
2 consecutive years. One year he had multiple offers. He said, "Nyet." Last year there might have been one. He said, "Nyet, not time." He wants to win a Super Bowl with the Lions and recognizes that they're potentially sitting on one this year. But he's so good at what he does. The voluminous amount of screens that the Lions ran last night. Now, they're a screen team. They'll screen Gibbs. They'll screen Montgomery. But we're screening Laporta from between the numbers and the hash marks, okay, which is tight for a tight end screen.
Yes.
And what I like about when they catch the ball, watch it with Montgomery. Here's how well coached these guys are by Johnson. Is they catch it and there's not a look, where do I go? They just head to the inside. So a lot of times players catch screens and they make one guy miss and then maybe they get loose. Or they generally loop outside because that's what they're most comfortable doing. Johnson is antithetical to that. Watch back some of these screens or watch it moving forward, specifically with Montgomery. There is no look down the field. There is a high-end belief. I catch it. It's a screen. I'm planting my left and going right, and it's going to work. And they're going to be there. And they're there. He's phenomenal. Ben Johnson's phenomenal, man.
He's going to have his choice of jobs.
Yeah.
If he wants
only
the Bears, he'll fight. If he wants
the Bears and Kevin Warren and the Bears say no, that's a mistake.
That's a mistake.
I think.
Now, the Bears may decide they want Thomas Brown to be their offensive coordinator regardless of who comes in at head coach.
Yeah.
And that might limit them. Ben Johnson might be like, no, I want to set my own staff.
Right.
So that's a possibility as well. But Johnson is going to have the pick of all the jobs.
Yep.
He will find the perfect landing spot where you've got alignment between ownership, general manager. I mean, he's not going to some broken organization. He's not going to the Jets.
Yep.
You're not going to a broken organization because he doesn't have to. Ben Johnson is going to have his pick of great landing spots.
And in closing for this segment, from a fantasy fee standpoint, outside of that covenant, Bucky Irving, the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who gets a Tank Bigsby-like moan from the co-host Paul Charchi when the name is brought up. Is he must play material moving forward in the Geese?
So he is. Last week was the breakout game, and 25 carries. So they've been using this timeshare all year long
with White.
Yeah, with White and even a little Sean Tucker mixed in as well.
Okay.
Last week, finally, offensive coordinator Liam Cohen just threw up his arms and went, I have to keep him on the field. I can't not have him on the field.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving is one of the 5 most talented running backs in the NFL right now.
Wow.
His yards per carry, I believe he's 4th. I'm doing the top of my head. Broken tackles, I think he's 2nd.
Wow.
I mean, it's just look at him. The eye test. It's unbelievable. Bucky Irving's so good, Paul. And I want to believe that this 25 carry game that we got out of him last week is not going to be a 1-week wonder mirage.
Right.
And that they're just going to keep him on the field because he is absolutely dynamite. And if you're Tampa, as a 500 team that's battling to make the playoffs, you got to keep your best players on the field.
Right.
Bucky Irving's a game-changing running back, and you got to keep playing him. I just hope they see it the way I do here.
Vikes Bites, guided by Mad Producer. Next, it's the Friday Football Feast on KFAN.
Vikes Bites.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for Vikes Bites. And Vikes Bites is always brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can shop online. A box of meat will show up at your doorstep. You got local Coburns, local co-ops locations, and then, of course, they're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. PA and Charch on site at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. It is indeed a feast, and I'm back here at the 651 Carpets Plus Studios with some things on my mind, and I want to start here. After a couple of games without tight end Josh Oliver, PA, What do you think? And I know that we've hit on this kind of indirectly a couple of times this week, and talking about picking your poison. And all jokes aside, though, ultimately Josh Oliver having really the most productive and best season of his NFL career. Part of that due to the injury of T.J. Hawkinson, but Hawk comes back, and you kind of can't take Josh Oliver off the field. And the guy's making plays, tremendous blocker in the run game. What do you think about Oliver returning to the mix for Kevin O'Connell?
And Charch, from a fantasy standpoint, it can dovetail to the Vikings fantasy wherewithal this weekend. With Josh Oliver returning from a reality standpoint, Munt did a really good job, including with his run blocking. And, man, he had a lot of juice on some of those routes that he ran last game. But Oliver's the A topic, having the best season of his career, like Matt Producer just said. What do you think about Oliver's return?
Well, elite level run blocker, as Nordo mentioned, and what that does is why you can't get him off the field is because when Oliver's on the field, you're not tipping your hand run pass anymore. And with Hawkinson on the field, which is, we're not denigrating TJ Hawkinson in any way here, but you tend to lean pass because Hawkinson's there. Oliver really lets you do anything you want. Run, pass, you want to go wide, you want to run inside, you can do whatever you want. And the flexibility, because he's good, he can do everything and run block at a high level.
And you can throw to him a little bit.
You can throw to him. I mean, Josh, he's not TJ Hawkinson, but he'll catch. You put an accurate pass on Josh Oliver, he's going to catch that ball. And that was not something we necessarily thought would be the case 2 years ago when they signed him. As it turns out, capable receiver. He gives you a little juice, and he's not going to make a bunch of people miss after the catch, but that's there's definitely a role there, and he's going to keep himself on the field all the time while he's here because of it.
Vikes Bites! Charch, I'm going to play some audio here from Justin Jefferson addressing the media yesterday, specifically on Sam Darnold and his ability to make all the throws. Here's the audio.
He definitely have a strong arm. Just being able to fit those throws in the tight windows and just being able to run those deep throws and being able to take the top off defenses. So those are things that, defenses got to respect. There's countless times where we went over top and, we made some long throws. J.A. has taken the top off plenty of times throughout the season. So those are things that the defense always has to respect. We definitely have some great receivers over here. So we feel like the whole playbook is kind of open towards Sam, just being able to throw it all across the field.
So this is an interesting weekend for you, Charch. It's the love you lost in Kirk Cousins and a guy who I believe, I'm just going to speak for you, I think he's grown on you quite a bit, Sam Darnold has, since your initial thoughts back in March. And so let's before we get to Kirk, let's stick with Sam, though, because we saw a couple of games, specifically just pointing out the interceptions against the Colts, the disastrous day down in Jacksonville. The most recent 3 games, however, 6 touchdowns, no picks. He's not dropping the ball, and he's making plays in this particular, most recent game against the Cardinals. He was even clutch in the fourth quarter when we needed him most. What have you seen through Sam Darnold over the last few weeks that might lead Justin Jefferson down that road of making all the throws, playbooks completely open? What do you see, Charch, and Sam?
Every game, over the past several games, Sam Darnold is making a tight window, strong-armed throw that only about 5 or 6 quarterbacks can make.
The left hash mark, right sideline bid. It's his favorite throw. And it has to be, and it requires a strong, accurate arm to do it.
It does. That window is so tight, and Sam makes that throw, and I think at the time, when I'm watching it as it's happening in real time, like, ooh, that's a good throw. Then you watch it back, and you get the camera angle behind the quarterback, like, wait a minute, that was that's like a 20% make throw that Sam just made look easy. And, it was Justin Jefferson in the last game. That is the throw that makes you look at Sam Darnold through a whole different lens when he's making passes that most quarterbacks can't make. And why you feel like, Sam Darnold not only belongs in this league, but he can go help you win games you would not win with most of the other quarterbacks.
Right.
And that's, this is the stuff from Sam that he had never shown before. You got glimpses of the arm strength. You got glimpses of some things from Sam. It never had come together like this. And to Nordo's point, Has he warmed up to me? Well, yeah, and every other Viking fan. I mean, virtually nobody, except Brian Johnson, my FFW co-host, who was petitioning for him to win MVP back when the signing went down.
Wow.
There was virtually nobody that thought Sam. I don't care how revisionist you want to be, listeners. When the Sam Darnold signing happened, I don't think almost anybody thought it was going to be like this, where he was going to make special plays almost every game.
But it was fair to say, using the Carolina and the Jets examples really, really diminishes and almost disrespects what O'Connell does here. So just it's to say it's going to be better. Well, I mean, I thought that was an absolute cinch, that it's going to be better with this structure and these players. Mm-hmm. Now, to where it is now with all these 100 passer rating games, and I think they have 45, 46, 47 strikes, completions downfield. Completions downfield. Most in the National Football League, despite the coverage Jefferson gets. Okay, Kevin calls them. Sam has to come through.
During the summer abyss, Paul, when you and I were breaking down Sam Darnold's game, every which way, where he was really bad was on deep passes. I mean, this is where it was low completions, high interceptions. The deep passing was bad. And the fact that he has become one of the NFL's best passers on 10, 15, and 20-yard and beyond passing, a remarkable turnaround. And credit Sam and credit the situation. Then we talked, again, while we were burning segments all summer, about the horrible situations in Carolina and with the Jets. I remember we talked about, here's the receivers that he was surrounded by. Nobody that was particularly good. Here are the coaches he was surrounded by. We looked at every offensive coordinator and head coach that Sam had played with, and it was a total of like 9 different players or coaches, 9 or 10.
Little different putting Robbie Anderson on a double move compared to Addison or Jefferson. Little different putting Ian Thomas on a double move.
Yes.
Compared to T.J. Hawkinson.
And so, it was like the 9 different head coaches and offensive coordinators Sam had worked with, and all but one are out of the league. I mean, just, the massive, massive upgrade that Sam got in talent around him, both coaching and players. And it's set the table for him to now be, obviously, one of the better, I'm not calling him,
I know what you mean.
One of the better reliable quarterbacks in the league.
Okay, hold on. The con!
Vikes Bites! Quick Covenant cleanup, by the way, as you both are aware, Robbie Anderson did change his name to Chosen Anderson. So I think it's important that we respect that name change.
You know what? His cousin's met a world peace. I absolutely should have known that. Apologies, distant uncle. He hate me. Yeah. Come on! The con!
Brilliant. Vikes Bites, thank you. Thousand Hills. JJ, I mentioned, and I played that audio, he was talking kind of, everybody's kind of happy with how things worked out with Kirk going away, as we got a skull chant at Buffalo Wild Wings and Savage.
All right, hold on. Hey, you guys got mad producer to break, so if you're going to do it, make it loud.
There we go. Oh, listen to that.
Now the cheerleaders are involved, and here they come. All right, 3-2. That was nice. Round of applause. Well done.
That's what happens when you're 10-2. The spontaneous skull chant breaks out.
Unprompted spontaneity, perfect people here to amplify it, and here they are.
Well, as part of that, and I hope there's a ton of skull chanting on Sunday with Kirk Cousins in the building. Justin Jefferson talking about how kind of both sides won this, right? Like Sam's been great. JJ talked about that. Kirk was great when he was here. But then you don't have to go back far to see a disaster for our former number 8.
4th down and 12, and a throw by Cousins, intercepted, number 4 today, and Derwin James will seal the win for the Chargers.
So, Charch, I don't know if you were listening to 9 to Noon. I believe it was yesterday, but PA really hit on it, that the mobility aspect of Cousins, which was never truly an A topic of his game in the first place, burning by Marcus Golden, taking the corner for a rushing touchdown years gone by. Love those moments, but ultimately, in some cases, we were kind of begging him him. We were trying to will it out of him. Can we get him to get loose once in a while and use his legs? Well, it's even been more mitigated, it seems, post-Achilles, as he's been looking as statuesque as he ever has in his career thus far in 12 games with the Falcons. Is there anything in particular that you have seen, whether it just be in highlights or the analysis that you do from a fantasy perspective, that has kind of put Kirk in a spot right now with a 6-6 team? There's some bitterness and negativity down in the ATL covenant, and a team that is hoping for a significant bounce back from their QB.
And I'm going to take it to the world of horse racing for a second, because Cousins' last three, off the way Nordo framed it up, looks like he's running with some type of nagging injury, but it's not enough to shelf him for 6 months and then have him come back and hopefully win big races. So off the last three, with the way Eric laid it out, I mean, it's I don't want to say it's impossible, but it would be so shocking to me to see it just completely flip and change Sunday, where he comes in moving around, bouncing around, firing dimes left and right, 70% completions, yards per attempt like 10.5 in the first half. I just can't see that this equine athlete I can't see this horse running fast these days, specifically at this track.
I'm glad we're talking about Kirk Cousins and not John Elway right now.
No, I tried. It was bad.
That's all right. If Kirk's going to win this game, Paul, he's going to have to do it on smarts and guile. It's not going to be on athletic talent anymore. And, we touched on this earlier. The mobility was never good, but what he had was an ability to step up in a pocket, slide in a pocket, take a couple of steps, give himself an extra half beat for a receiver to get open, and that's gone. That's just not there, and it hasn't been there all year, and it ain't coming back at this stage of his career. And knowing where Kirk is going to be in the pocket is going to be a problem for the Falcons. Brian Flores, with this rush, with this blitz, and knowing you don't have to worry about Kyler Murray breaking out of the pocket and running on you.
Right.
Flores is going to be able to set his defense in such a fashion that you can attack Kirk knowing where he is. And I just think Flores is sitting on a very big game, and we are going to torture Kirk in this game, and it's going to be a long day for him, and he's going to be harried throughout. And we've seen this happen in 2 or 3 other games this year, including the Steelers game against Kirk in the opener, where he was just a sitting duck and he was getting absolutely massacred by Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. That could be Grenard in this game.
Really?
There's a real chance the Vikings put him on a game where he just evaporates in the pocket. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I think the lack of mobility is going to be a big problem here.
Yeah, they're with Kirk, and I brought this up yesterday with Eric, but I didn't have it in front of me, and I'm having trouble finding it now. But I just found it. It's kind of amazing. It's over the last 10 seasons, there only have been 6 quarterbacks who have had more than 400 dropbacks and 2 fewer scrambles. Okay. Wow. Over the past 10 seasons, 6. We have Matthew Stafford. Stafford from this year, 437 dropbacks, 1 scramble.
Yep.
Cousins,
probably against the Vikings, by the way. He was running through our team, if you recall.
Cousins, 421 dropbacks, 2 scrambles. Phillip Rivers in 2020, 560 and 1. Breeze 2020, he had 403 and 2. Phillip Rivers, 2017, 593 dropbacks, 2 scrambles. Damn. And Joe Flacco, Flo Jacko from 2015, 426 and 1. So 421 dropbacks and only 2 scrambles.
Amazing.
That's sitting duck terrorism.
We don't expect designed runs for Kirk, but only 2 scrambles. Kirk is going, if he gets pressure, he's not going to try to run out of it. He's going to try to pass his way out of it. And sometimes you're going to throw 4 picks. Although about the 4 picks in the pick 6 last week, smart people tell me on his pick 6, which looked awful, the receiver it was intended to was likely, nobody knows because Kirk will never throw his receiver under the bus. Receiver was likely supposed to come back to the play, come back to the passer. Kirk threw it to that spot. Mm-hmm. Receiver did not make the break. And I think it was Darnell Mooney. And then we end up with a pick six that makes Kirk look like a moron, but might have actually been on the receiver.
The con.
Vikes Bites. Thank you, Thousand Hills. How do they use Bijan Robinson better or differently post Arthur Smith? How dangerous is he if Kirk's going to be statuesque, if Kirk's going to be a target with our pass rush and all of that? How does Bijan Robinson present challenges for Flores on Sunday?
Well, it's a wonderful question because the Cardinals put something on tape that teams can use moving forward, A, if they are equipped, and B, if they are disciplined. I don't believe Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, is disciplined enough to do what Drew Petzing and the Cardinals did. There's a reason they ran the way they ran. Now, it ended up being 154, okay?
That's a lot.
Yeah, which is double what the Vikings were giving up. But this is discretion is the better part of valor, because I think they recognize the only way we can win this game is to keep their offense off the field and tire this defense.
Which they did.
So they're doubled up, almost tripled up on time of possession in the first half. And then eventually it evened out. They had some dicey decisions they made. Zach Robinson being from the McVay tree, Petzing's from the Stefanski tree. Okay, Nick Chubb, Stefanski's first game in 2018. Dalvin ran for like 160. They ran for like 225. Kevin's going to run to set up the pass. Drew's going to run, and including with the quarterback, to set up the pass. With Lindstrom and some of the guys they have inside, if the Falcons stay dedicated to powerhouse running with Bijan Robinson, that I'm not saying the Falcons will win, but it definitely would even out the game a lot, I think.
Well, look what happened last week, Paul. Bijan Robinson touched the ball 32 times in a game. Kirk threw 4 interceptions.
Didn't he catch 6?
Yeah, I believe he caught 6, and whatever the difference is, 26 times. So they committed to Bijan in particular. Phased out Tyler Algier, who's also, by the way, really good power back. Yeah. Algier's a good player.
Yeah.
But Bijan's obviously special. One of the best multi-dimensional pass catchers. He can run inside. He can run outside.
Yeah.
He can do just about everything. Yeah. And
if they don't run the ball in voluminous fashion, they're fools. And that's I don't like talking about people like that, but really now I'm starting to talk myself into it. Without Ivan Pace Jr., okay, you can stop the run with Cashman. And when you have Cashman and Ivan Pace Jr. with Bynum, Metellus, and Hitman doing their things around them, that's formidable. Without Ivan and what happened last game, it's again, discretion is the better part of valor. Is their offensive coordinator going to come in here trying to one-up his former boss with a quarterback who's broken, and I want to show you with everybody watching I can fix him and put him on a 375-3 and give us a good chance to win the game? I'm telling you, you have, even without Gilmore, if he doesn't play, you have minimal shot of doing that. If you do that, Flores' defense will have 6 sacks or more, and Michael Penix will play the final half of the fourth quarter. But if you stick with the run the way Arizona did, and you mix in Algier, okay, you gave him his time out in the corner for whatever the reason. He's fast, but he's also physical, and you stick with it. You have to stick with it, even if you get down 10 points, 2 scores, because you'll tire that thing out, man. And then that's when the play action and Cousins turns his back on a defense as good as anybody in the history of the NFL. That's when the play action will come into play, and it will have some merit. So I'm going to be following that closely Sunday. If they don't run, I think they're making it's an egregious error.
And, of course, the problem with that is the Vikings' run defense can be absolutely dominating.
Right.
So you can go in with that plan.
Yeah.
But now you are running against the team that has the highest success rate in the NFL against the run, Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, with Pace Jr. With
Pace, and that is a difference.
It is.
That is a difference. And so you can plan for that. You can go into your game feeling like you're going to run, and then when you're getting 2 yards per carry, and 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 a bunch of punts, that might be out the window too. That's it's one of the problems that the Falcons are going to have to be nimble on and see how that game goes. We mentioned Robinson, one of the great pass catching backs in the NFL.
Is he?
He is.
Yeah.
Not at the Christian McCaffrey level, not calling him LaDainian Tomlinson, but at that next tier down. Vikings have been good here too, Paul. No runners top 44 yards through the air against the Vikings. Most don't come close. over the past 6 games, entire running back units, all the runners averaging just 22 air yards against Minnesota.
Right.
So I feel like they can defend Bijan better than most through the air as well.
Right.
Vikes Bites. Hey, gentlemen, is there instant trust in the Alabama rookie now that Will Reichard is back? We loved Romo, but now the kid wants to return. Do we immediately trust him?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Earned it.
The belief is the only reason he missed and was missing was because that quad popped. Now, Parker Romo, he walked off at Soldier Field.
Yep.
Will was there. Will was on that trip. And he didn't walk off, but, I mean, it's an extra point, okay, but it ain't from the 10 anymore. These are 35-yard kicks with a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
And he hit that. So I don't I don't have any reservation to think Reichard is all of a sudden going to flip from that, like, what was he, 30-something for 30-something with extra points and field goals?
Yeah, it was like
Before
36.
before he
Something
popped
like
that quad. But it is a different situation, and he has watched somebody come in high-leverage situations in his job and come through. And by the way, the Vikings have kept Parker Romo on the active roster. Okay, he's not on the practice squad.
No way.
Yeah, he's no.
Why?
I don't know, and I think he's the roster I got yesterday, unless there's been an update, has him on the active roster. And if you put him on a practice squad, he's
gone.
100% getting taken off what he just did.
Sure. Okay, but
but I mean, your kicker had a weird quad out of nowhere. Say it happens again.
Well, he's not on the injury report at all right now. Reichard is. And so my assumption is that he is fully recovered from the injury. But the fact that Romo hasn't been released yet, which, by the way, I'm sure Romo would prefer to be released so he could go kick for somebody else and get more tape and everything else, right?
This. Yeah.
Then that suggests that the Vikings just want to maybe get one more game to feel 100% about Reichard.
That makes sense.
Maybe Romo's going to do kickoff. Well, you don't even need...
No, you know what? He might. Yeah,
maybe that's it.
Yeah, maybe that is it with Parker Romo. All right, here's the Vikings roster updated last night.
Yeah, Romo's still there.
Romo's active.
Why?
And Reichard, but here's what I think could possibly happen.
I mean,
maybe there's a transaction tomorrow where, because you have still, and this is via the website, they have Reichard and DePaula isolated on a reserve designated to return list.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if they are going to be active, I think you would have to make a transaction, and maybe that's what happens ultimately.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if you do something with it now, with X amount of days into a game, he probably would be taken and made active somewhere else. But the kickoff situation that you brought up was pretty interesting.
Maybe they want him for that. They don't want to put extra stress on Reichard's leg the first week back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Vikes Bites.
Yeah, Vikes Bites.
Would you like, if you want one more? I do have a question here as part of this weekend, and hopefully not a long-term thing. But how do you think that they manage Stephon Gilmore, who is unlikely to play this weekend, it appears, and I'm just going off of the practice reports and such, and he hasn't been able to participate. Fabian Moreau, maybe there's a benefit to having extra reps and getting more action in practice. Dwight McGlothern was a name that Kevin O'Connell mentioned earlier this week. But this is something that Flores has to manage, at least for a weekend. Stephon Gilmore not being in the mix. Charch, what do you think about it?
I thought Moreau, credit Drew Pretzing. You saw Moreau on the field and was like, we're going after that guy. Yeah. And Moreau obviously made some pretty big negative plays in that game. And I have some worry about this. If that is a weak link in the chain right now, and that does worry me. There's a reason Moreau was available midway through this season.
No, into the season.
Excuse me.
Yeah, they had him from July on, and with Moreau, it's the intel on him from training camp for these preseason games was quality man corner. Okay, but there's a threshold, obviously. So I don't know if that means that they don't like him in zone or you can't play him in zone. But now with a full week to get ready against a quarterback who appears to be broken, for a defense that's starting to play a lot more man with Griffin, Gilmore, and Murphy. And that's why Griffin's snap counts are up from when they were down like in the 20s. I'm guessing Moreau's going to give them, think Lions defense last night. Moreau's going to give them what they want for a certain period of time. But then you got to be careful because he hasn't played this year. You know, if it's a tight game in the fourth quarter and you're going to go man singled up against Darnell Mooney, you got to be careful. You know, if it's Fabian Moreau because he hasn't played, so you got to deal with conditioning and just the whole thing. But I do remember when they signed Moreau because O'Connell was with him in Washington. The first thing that I was told was he knows how to play man-to-man defense. Okay. And really, that's about all I can add right now.
Right. Yeah,
no, he was rough last week.
It was rough last week, and I'm worried about those negative plays and situations where he'd be isolated against a receiver because it didn't look good last week. But maybe he's warmed up, Paul. Maybe he just needed a few reps to get the engine revved up.
Yeah, but on the Gilmore side of it, Stefan's just crafty. I mean, he's just He reminds me of Patrick Peterson, you know, where Patrick, nearing the end of his career, wasn't the 4-2 LSU guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't returning like one of 4 punts he did in his first 2 years to the end zone, but he made the most of what he had. Gilmore's better than that, but I think he will be missed if he doesn't play. And following the practice reports, like Nordo said, we'll know today when Kevin O'Connell speaks at 1:15, but I would bet Gilmore does not play. Alec Lewis from The Athletic joins us about 15-20 minutes from now. Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. PA Charch feasting in Savage on KFAN, and we're back after this. Buffalo Wild Wings Savage for the Friday football feast. Paul Charchian joining us feverishly, sprinting across the room. Eric Nordquist produces 9 to noon. And I'm going to ask Nordo a question here, and then you take it from there, Charch, because Charch is still quite wound up over Offensive Rookie of the Year, where Jaden Daniels is still favored. Your guy's guy, Brock Bowers, had a big one last game. He's like 10 to 1, 11 to 1, something like that. And then you got no Bix. You got no Bix right in the middle at like 4.5 to 1. But Nordo, you go first.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, are we thinking stone cold cinch still? Because it went from cinch of all cinches ever to cinch to, wow, we got to start talking about the tight end and the Denver quarterback. Then the Denver quarterback comes up bad on Monday Night Football, even though they win. And tight ends never win it. You first, Nordo. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's his absolutely to lose, and I'm very much I'm about 98% to stone cold lock. He had a couple of tough games, and the Commanders lost 3 in a row, and then they bounced back and dropped 40 on the Titans. So it kind of plays out how the next few games go. I think it's Jaden Daniels and really just kind of in a cinch, as you might say. Yeah. But if Bo Nix and Peyton keep winning games and he keeps doing some of the things he was doing outside of that long TD against Jameis and the Browns the other night, I didn't think he was especially spectacular. But I think that it would require Jaden to have a precipitous fall off over this Final Five for Bo Nix to even sniff it. And I love Bowers, but I don't think he's got a shot at all.
And the only reason Bowers doesn't have a shot, it's an injustice for sure. I'm going to make my case for Bowers in a second.
It's a quarterback award.
His team, it kind of is. They should just rename it.
It's an injustice.
They should just rename it. But Bo Nix is going to go to the playoffs probably, and almost certainly Jaden Daniels is going to go to the playoffs. The Raiders might have the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And the voters are going to be looking at, okay, Jaden Daniels powered his team into the playoffs. Brock Bowers was great, but his team didn't get wins because of Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Now, your case for Brock Bowers goes like this. He's having the best rookie season since Ditka, and it's not close. He is on pace to destroy the all-time rookie tight end reception record by 30 receptions. We're finally going to have a tight end take down Ditka's rookie season reception record. It's like 1,100 yards. He's on pace for 1,200-ish. Doing that off the top of my head. And by the way, Ditka did it in 14 games, which is unbelievable. Tribute, tip of the hat to Mike Ditka. That rookie season was unbelievable. But we're finally now, 50 years later, getting to a tight end who's going to break all those records. Brock Bowers is the best rookie at his position this year. And it's not even debatable. But he's not going to win because they're going to reward playoff quarterbacks. And Jaden Daniels is likely the guy's minus like 200 right now to win the award.
Yeah, maybe 240, something like that. No, I think it might even be bigger than that.
It might be.
Might be a 4-1 favorite still. Okay, well, off tight ends, Dan Campbell, coach of the Kitties. That's a former tight end. He was a beef eater.
Yeah.
Made some acrobatic catches every so often with either Dallas or the Lions. Well, Dan Campbell has I don't know if it's an ascension, but I think it is because he's basically 50-50 or plus 110. So it's 110 one way, 110 the other to win Coach of the Year. Now, Kevin O'Connell is 4.5 to 1, 9 to 2 in the horse racing business. And with O'Connell, there's somebody else at 9 to 2. Who is that?
Tomlin is at plus
Mike Tomlin.
450.
Yep, plus 450, 9 to 2. Then you got the anti-Vike. He's crept up to like 610 to 1. But Dan Campbell at plus 110 to win Coach of the Year. It's a regular season award.
Yep.
So this is a rare opportunity, if you are so inclined, to take whatever you want and, say it's $1. And if you win, you get back $1 and a dime, 100, 110, 1,000, 1,100, and smash what may, do you think Campbell looks like a cinch to win Coach of the Year?
Yeah.
Here's
It's
where
kind of looking like a cinch.
Here's where you could trip up Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
With Kevin O'Connell.
Right, winning that last game.
If it comes down to that last game of the season.
Wow.
So let's talk it through for just a second.
Yeah, Nordo, how great would this be after I cut Sam Darnold in fantasy football? You pick him up, you advance, I don't. I use Bo Nix for the anti-bike. I'm bounced. If we ship Charch down 35, drops 5 dimes on the Lions coach to win Coach of the Year, and O'Connell beats him in the last game and wins at better odds.
Hell
That'd
yes.
be unbelievable.
It would be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So the way the Vikings can win the division, and then if the Vikings do win the division and take down the Lions, Kevin O'Connell deserves it at that point. The pathway to do that starts really next week because Detroit plays Buffalo. This is the one game where you feel like Detroit could get tripped up. Now, Detroit also after that goes at Chicago, which is never easy, and at San Francisco, which seems easy now, but who knows?
Right.
But if they lose that Buffalo game and the Vikings win, and the Vikings will be favored against Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, Green Bay, then
I don't know if they'll be favored against Seattle.
You don't think so?
Yeah, it feels pick-em-ish.
You think so?
Gino's playing quite well, and they're winning games.
The Vikings will have to win out. The Lions need to lose one game the rest of the way, and now we're down to a Week 18 matchup. But let me ask both of you this. And if the Vikings did win that, I think Kevin O'Connell should win the award. Do they vote for all of these awards after Week 17 or after Week 18?
18 after the regular season.
I hope that's the case. If that's the case, that's your scenario where you hit your plus 450 on Kevin O'Connell to win Coach of the Year. Is he's got to take down the Lions, and if he does, and this team wins the division, game on. Why shouldn't it be Kevin O'Connell?
The con.
Well, if I may jump in, this is with FanDuel Sportsbook as of this moment. Which, if you're going to drive 35 south, you're going to get 10 to 1 right now on Kevin O'Connell.
Oh,
You're going to get minus 200 on Dan Campbell. So that's how FanDuel. Okay. I talked with Florio about this when I talked with on Wednesday. And these odds have flipped. What I'm curious about, though, with you guys, Sean Payton is 10 to 1 if this Bo Nix thing continues to flourish. But how about Mike Tomlin at 7.5 to 1? There's been a lot of buzz about his season, what he's been able to do, dusting off Russ Wilson and continuing to win games there despite myriad injuries. Mike Tomlin getting a lot of love as well. But when you drive down there with your 5 dimes, Charch, 10 to 1 feels like a pretty good number if things play out in the idealistic way that you laid out.
Well, did you say 7 to 1 on Tomlin?
7.5 to 1 on Tomlin right now. He's second according to FanDuel in odds.
Hey,
Tomlin just housed his 18th straight season of at least 500 ball, which is unbelievable.
Right.
Has Tomlin ever won it maybe once in these 18 years. One of his,
I don't think he has.
Maybe once. I don't know for sure.
Well, that's what Florio mentioned on Wednesday, guys, is kind of the idea. Like, we were talking about Rookie of the Year and how basically it's like best rookie quarterback, and that's kind of the vibe of how it's played out. But similarly with the Coach of the Year award, like Belichick, during that run, won it twice maybe. Andy Reid's only won it once, despite his incredible career. So it's almost like, Brian Daboll, maybe example number one, it ends up just being, it's not who the best coach is, it's like who had the best turnaround season. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's versus expectation. And Kevin O'Connell has outperformed expectations more than Mike Tomlin has and Dan Campbell has, and so that's part of the scenario. If it's 10-1 for KOC,
10-1. Where do you get your odds from? By the way, they're wrong every single week.
I did this morning.
They're wrong every week.
Scoresandodds.com. Wow. That's where I got them.
Okay.
Well, I'm telling this is from FanDuel Sportsbook. As of this moment, KO is 10-1 down at Diamond Joe.
If KO needs to win the division to win it, and he's 10-1, Paul, Eric, if the Vikings were to, we play out this season 10 more times, do the Vikings win one?
Well,
win the division once.
Absolutely, out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Has Campbell won it?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, it went, since KO came in, it went Dable. Who won it last year?
Stefanski won it.
Campbell
yes,
won it.
he did.
2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, what's Campbell here? Minus what?
He's minus 200.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I think Dan's going to win it simply because of the way things go with the record and nationally televised games. Goff's in the MVP conversation. A lot of injuries to overcome. Post game, the post game chats and everything in the locker room. He's affable and voters buy into that. Who else is affable and or amiable? His name is Alec Lewis. He writes about the Vikings for The Athletic. He's a weekly contributor to the Friday Football Feast, and we're into our final hour from Buffalo Wild Wings Savage on your favorite radio station, KFAN.